Hey Andy, do you need something to write on?
Not really.
Well, shut up, because I've got some post-it notes for you. The Spawn Point, sponsored by Quick Notes, because who needs sticky notes when you have quick notes?
Yeah, quick note.
Yeah!
Your face.
So that's our sponsor.
Didn't work. So, this week's topic. Actually, I want to say before we start this topic, that after 3 weeks, we finally, well, hopefully successfully, this one doesn't screw up, but we finally...
Screw up now. Now
Yeah.
you've said that, it's going to
We finally,
to air.
after bad audio and a corrupt MP4 file, we're finally at this point.
After 3 weeks.
And Pee Wee Herman's been very patient. He's joined us again as a special guest. We were going to have a real special guest, but she couldn't make it. So Pee Wee has decided to step in. And anyway, onto the topic. So we've recently, there's been a lot of talk about free-to-play. Actually, was it the Candy Crush developer? Was saying about that all games should be free-to-play as a future business model. I think that was essentially what he was saying. Was that should be like the future. We should have a free-to-play model. But what are our thoughts on that? Do we think that like free-to-play is the future, or is it limited to certain types of game? There's a few things before we talk about this that you've got to take into account. So there's balancing issues. There's the pricing of stuff which isn't, that when you do buy things, the pricing of that, not having an unfair advantage, and I guess the hardest problem is trying to, if it's free to play, is convincing people to invest money, really. So yeah, what are our thoughts on it? Free to play.
I'll go first. My thoughts on free to play is that, yeah, it's all good having a free to play game because it's brilliant, it's free to play. But in order for a company to carry on with that game to updates and all that stuff, that company needs to receive some revenue in form. So people have to use in-game money, for instance. So they have to buy things. Without that in-game money, how is a company going to be able to carry on? Where are they going to get their funding from? So I think free-to-play on my kind of basis is, yeah, it's good, but how is the company going to get their money? Where are they going to get their money from if people aren't using in-game money, for instance, where you have to put money to, to buy things and to get extra stuff. If people don't do that, then how is the developer going to carry on?
So are you more inclined to play free-to-play games nowadays compared to, would you play, like, is there any free-to-play games that you play that you wouldn't play if they weren't free-to-play?
At the moment I play like Need for Speed, which is the free-to-play version. But if I had to buy that, then no, I wouldn't buy that. But I don't use in-game cash, for instance, so I'm probably one of those ones that could be to blame. But, well,
so you play the free-to-play, but you never buy the paid items?
No, I don't.
Okay. But is there enough content for you to take advantage of without doing that?
Yes, there is. So for me, really, I wouldn't need to use any of my money, for instance, to buy any extra stuff, because what I get in the game already is enough for me. But for other people, they might want that extra pack or extra car or whatever, so they would most likely buy that.
I mean, I think it depends on what business model they're using. So, I mean, I play Hearthstone quite a lot, and that's a fairly fair free-to-play game, I feel.
But you've spent a lot of money on that game. That's the difference.
I have.
Think about it this way. With that game, if that was a one-time payment or a monthly subscription model or something like that, would you reckon you'd end up spending less? If everything was accessible and you had like a one-time payment, let's say £40, $60, that's the same comparison. Would you save more money that way because everything's unlocked and you haven't? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like if it had been a £40 sort of just flat fee, you get all of the cards, then I would have saved a hell of a lot of money there. Yeah,
because that's my biggest problem with free to play is that, and I've had this conversation with Steve quite a while back about League of Legends. And about, like, my problem is that with MOBA games, I think that it's probably a fairly old-fashioned view for me, but I would like to have a monthly subscription for MOBA games and have everything accessible. And the reason why is because everything is so expensive and it's so hard to unlock anything without actually spending a lot of money. So there was one thing that Infinite Crisis, I can't even get onto a game on Infinite Crisis, but they did a thing during PAX East where everything was available for an entire week. Like all champions were unlocked, everything, and that's free to play. And that was cool. But the thing is, if you go out and buy every single piece of content they've got on a free to play game, you're spending a lot more than you are on any other business model. Which is why I can see that's attractive for developers because they can make more revenue from the game. But it seems like a very risky gamble for them because you don't actually know whether people are going to do that.
But yeah, I guess if you can make a game compelling enough to make people want to spend all of this cash and actually do it in a fair enough business model, then I feel like the industry could go far with free to play. However, I don't feel that every game could fit into that business model. Because I mean, take for example something like Call of Duty. Could you see that? Oh, bye, Matt. Could you see that yearly sort of franchise working as a free-to-play model? I don't think they could do it fairly because what would they really have to do it? Or what perks? I mean, if you're starting to spend money on perks or weapons, then that's just going to be horrible because then it would be a pay-to-win thing almost.
I think with Call of Duty, it would go right downhill if it was made free-to-play. But one thing I want to say, though, is that I've got a few friends, and they play a lot of free-to-play games, and they buy a lot of stuff. Now, one friend actually said to me, which was quite interesting, actually, is it gets quite addicting. You feel like you want to spend more money on the game, and you do. You do spend a lot of money. I think that's why I kind of stay away from that.
I get this kind of feeling when I've played a free-to-play game. When I spend money on a free-to-play game, it makes me feel... I don't know, it makes me feel special, like... I've got this thing that you can, most people haven't got. Whereas if it's like a game that I think this is part of the trap. When you've got a game that you spend £40 on and everything's available, it's just like you unlock it when you've played a certain amount and you've got a certain level of experience or whatever. When you do free to play, you can pretty much, it's a problem is that you can basically unlock things at any point, providing you have the money for it, and you get that straight away. And it's like it feels very hard to progress on free to play because if everything's available just for a certain price, then it's not like how do I gain anything from playing more if I can just get this item in the first minute of playing.
Yeah, but I mean, not all of the games. It seems to be coming more and more often, like in first-person shooters. Just use that again for an example. So at level 3, you unlock this weapon, or you play the game for so long and you unlock all of these abilities and this weapon. But that hasn't always been the case. If you look at something like Counter-Strike, you bought the game flat off cost, and then you get every single weapon and every single sort of skill available to you there and then. And you don't need to pay any more for it. And that game is incredibly popular still.
I know, but I kind of like the whole, you get to a certain level and unlock something, because it gives me something to work towards. It's like something to look forward to. It's like, I'd put it in a way which is like Steve's one for like analogies and metaphors and all those things, but I'm going to chuck one in here. So it's like if, this is the thing. So it's kind of like, you could have, say it's Christmas time. You could have one present this year and have one next year, or you could have all of your Christmas presents for the next 10 years right now, or you could have one each year, and you've got something to look forward to each year. You've got something to like, that's, rather than getting everything straight away, you're kind of spoilt for choice and you've got everything, and it's kind of like that can run dry very quickly. Rather than feeding your appetite, it's like you're getting everything at once, and it's like, once I've tried out everything, I can't really, I mean, Call of Duty Ghosts, even though it's a terrible game, this does the same thing with, like, you can unlock things at, I think you can unlock things at any stage, providing you have, like, the points
It
or
doesn't
whatever.
use points so that you get so many points like a weapon.
Yeah, but it's like
yeah.
it's the thing is, it's like even though I don't really like that game, I like the concept, which is that you don't have everything unlocked, but you have a certain thing you can pick. Like I can unlock this gun right now. I can pick to unlock one gun at different points in the game as I level up. But what that gun is that I unlock is up to me. So I don't have to like unlock all of the guns that I don't like. I can just say, I want a sniper rifle and I want the best one and I want that straight away. But in order to get that, I don't unlock one of the assault rifles, which is, equally as good. But yeah, more back to the free-to-play aspect of things and how that kind of works out. I kind of feel like the hardest thing for a free-to-play game from a developer's perspective is balancing the game. And you always get this dilemma of like, pay to win. So like the more that you spend, the more you've got an advantage. And this has happened with a lot of games. And some games manage to have that balancing issue sorted. But a lot of the time it's kind of difficult because you want them to spend the money. They want you to spend the money to unlock these things, but they can't give you a ridiculous advantage, but then you need a decent reason to buy it. Because it's like, you can buy this, but it's not going to give you any advantage, and people are like, oh, but I want to be, I want the best stuff, and if this is exactly the same as everything else in terms of stats and everything.
They just go, oh, I want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
I think that's why people, some people have got the theory in their head. If I spend, for instance, £100, I can be the best person on the battlefield, for instance, and I'll be able to win the game every time. And that's what you're saying, is that the balancing needs to be correct. That if people do spend £100, yeah, you can spend £100. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the very best soldier on the field, for instance.
But do you ever do this thing where, like, you buy something in a free... I don't know if you've... I know Andy has. I don't know, Steve, if you've ever bought anything on a free-to-play game from,
no, I haven't, no.
So what I've done is, like... I don't know if you feel the same way, Andy, but when I've bought something on a free-to-play game using real cash, after I've bought it, after a while, I'm like, why did I spend the money on that? Like, I kind of regret it. And you kind of have, like, a... No, you regret doing it after a while. You kind of like
a buyer's remorse.
Yeah, buyer's remorse. And you're like, why did I spend that money on getting that? I could have just been... Because it's the thing, you can be more patient and not have to spend any money, but it takes forever. And the whole reason for that is they want you to spend money because of how...
Yeah. That's the same thing with Need for Speed. I can't remember the actual game. It's a free-to-play on the PC. But you can do it the way where you unlock everything without spending money, but it would take you forever. But you can put the money in there and you've got it straight away. You can win all your races and all that stuff with the best cars. But I would prefer to do it where it takes me that time, because the reason why I would do it is because I get very guilty after I've bought something. I think to myself,
yeah, it's the whole buyer's remorse thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it depends on how much. Again, this goes back to the business model. How much am I getting for the money that I'm spending on this? Because I frankly don't have the time to spend all of my time trying to unlock everything. So if I could just put down like £10 and get all of the content or something, I'm not saying that's how much you spend. It's probably a lot more than that. But I'd prefer to do that than just by going there, spending all this time and unlocking everything. Because, yeah, like I said, I'd have the time to do everything. And if it was a free game, then I would feel happy with spending that much money, because that's probably about the amount that I'd spend on an actual game. I mean, AAA games are going up to £40 these days?
Well, actually, next gen it's like 50.
50
or 55
50.
sometimes.
But that's how much they were. That's how much they were when PlayStation 3 came out. They were 55, even 60.
I remember buying a PlayStation 2 game for £50, and that was when I was really young. I think it was it's like called like Klondike or something. I don't know what it's called. Had this really weird like animal creature thing, and he had like two tails in the back of his head, and they're like white. It's like paint like white. I don't know. It's really weird. I'll have to look it up and show you. But
is this a toy?
No. It's the character in the game, and it's called like something like Klondike or something.
Klondike, isn't it Klondike a candy bar in America?
No, it's not. It's spelled differently, but yeah, I think it's Klondike but with a Y instead of an I or something, or it's Clon something, but I don't know. I'll look it up afterwards. But yeah, that was £50 when it first came out. But God, what was I going to say? I was going to say that the keeping with the current times. So Elder Scrolls Online came out at the beginning of this month, and that's a monthly fee MMO. So it's monthly subscription model, and there's mixed opinions about that. The problem, which is really off-putting with that game, is I don't know why anyone would want to buy that for a console, because at the moment I'm pretty sure that you have to pay for the PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live subscription as well as the Elder Scrolls Online. They're trying to get around that, I've heard, but at the moment you're having to pay 2 subscription models just to play that game.
So how much is Elder Scrolls Online if you want to buy the subscription model?
It's around, I think, £10 a month. I think it's about $15 a month, which is about £10.
For me, yeah, for me, if I had to pay £10 a month, I would feel really guilty after that £10 has come out of my account.
The only time I've ever spent money on an MMO subscription model is Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I did that for 2 months. I bought a 60-day prepaid card, which was around, I think it was around £10. It's about £18 for 2 months, and I just stopped playing it. So I was like, I can't exactly keep playing it if I'm only going to play it like a few days in the month. There's no point me spending that money.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the great benefit of free to play, is that you're not having to pay when you're not playing it. With like a subscription model, you're having to spend the money even if you're not putting the hours in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think MMOs can realistically last being on a payment model, apart from WoW, because that is just, even though the subscriber base is going down. I have like this idea of how, if, like, let's say for example, developers didn't want to go free to play, but they wanted like some kind of subscription model. A fair way to do it is it's based on in real time, like in a calendar, like a monthly calendar, but based in the game time. So the amount of time that you spend in the game is, so if you do like a week's, like you've played for a week in game time, then you'll be charged more than somebody who's played 2 hours in game time.
Yeah.
You might have been playing you might have both had the game for a month, but one of you's got charged more because you've played it more. And that makes more sense to me.
Real dangerous model, though.
What if you left it logged in and you're just like,
yeah,
you'd have all of these kids just going and playing the game for hours and hours on end, and if the parent wasn't looking out for them,
well, you could have parental controls set so that this is like I'm setting up some kind of like some business one, but you could have parental controls which limited the amount of game time, so that like the parent could lock the person, like log them out automatically and say that you've reached your monthly cap or something.
Or they would.
This is a good idea. I'm going to pitch this to Dragon's Den.
I don't know. This sounds like a really dangerous model.
I know.
It's
like a pay as you go
benefit.
I
could see some benefit. Like maybe if it was you puts right, I'm going to play for 3 hours or something, and then you pay that up front, and then you get all of that. But then what happens when the 3 hours is up? Say you're in like at the middle of a battle or something.
I think it has to.
Sorry, your time's up.
Unless you had it once you were out of combat. So sometimes when you log off on games and it says it has to have been 15 seconds before you can log out. So it's a little bit like if you're in the middle of a boss battle, you don't get chucked out halfway through. But once but there's a problem if they drop loot and you're like, quick, I've got to grab the loot before it logs me out. That's a problem. But
I want to say one thing now. I kind of agree with what Andy says, because just say someone sets this up and the parent doesn't know what they're doing, and the child does know what they're doing, and they think, oh no, don't worry about parental controls. And like you say, they rack up this huge bill, and then they've got to pay it. That sounds to me very dangerous. Like,
that's the parent's fault. That's not.
Yeah, but not every parent.
Games, like there's kids like racking up all of these stupid fees as well, aren't there?
But this thing, kids can, regardless of how long you play, it's easier to monitor your kid playing a long time on a game rather than a parent. It's going to be hard for a parent to tell if they've spent loads of money by just buying in-game items, and if they bought loads of in-game items on a free-to-play system, and they didn't play it very often, they've still spent a lot of money. It's very hard for a parent to tell, but if they've spent a lot of time playing it, they'll be able to tell because they'll just be glued to their console or PC or whatever.
Yeah, but some parents don't even care.
But what I mean is it's easier to spot because the kids can do the same thing. They can spend loads of money on a free-to-play game, and the parents might not, So regardless of what business model you set up, it doesn't limit, unless there's parental controls and the parents know what they're doing, it doesn't limit who can, what kids can spend. So
you have a very good point there. Some of the stuff it's very good, but again, I just think it's very risky because if the parent doesn't know anything about this, but the child does, it could get very expensive for the parent. Very expensive.
I think that's something that parents need to be aware of, though. I guess if they're going to let their kids play all of these like free to play inverted commas games, or the whole name of it, free to play. I mean, is that the best name to be calling a game which you need to spend money to like advance in it?
Yeah, it's kind of misleading. People are like, oh, free to play. Yeah, but only about 20% of the content is available. Yeah. So it's like free to play part of it, basically.
But when a parent hears their child say, I'm playing this new game, whatever it may be called, it's free to play, the parent thinks, oh, that's brilliant, I need your bank details. Or why do you need my bank details? For whatever reason, the parent goes, okay, it's free to play. And then the child starts racking up
but even if you're like
bills.
even if you're 16, you can have a card for yourself and you could...
Well, then that's up to the child, really, or the teenager. If they want to rack up a huge bill, that's up to them, But when it's down to the parent...
But I think from a developer standpoint, free-to-play is ideal. I think from a consumer standpoint, it really does depend on what the game is, and you can't sweep everything under the same... you can't sweep it all under the same carpet, really, and say everything should be free-to-play, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work for some things, and it just isn't... I think it's very genre-specific what will work and what won't.
Oh, definitely. There are some games it really suits to, but other games it really doesn't suit to because it doesn't fit that kind of model. But, I do kind of see the way for free to play, and I also don't see the way. But, as you said, it suits some games and it doesn't suit others. So, yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. I do definitely agree with that.
I mean, in an ideal world, the sort of free to play model could be a cosmetic only. However, so literally like new skins for something, or if in the example of Team Fortress 2, hats and everything. However, how many people will buy all of that? Is that I don't feel like that's going to be a business model that everyone can use.
I think the most, speaking of like TF2, I think the most I spent on that game, I only spent about £10, and it was on I had loads of those crates, but I didn't have the keys, so I was like, that's it. I'm going to go buy the keys because I never get them. But it's a bit more interesting now because you just unlock free items, even though it's free to play. Well, now it is, but when it wasn't free to play, you were still unlocking free items as you played more. But it was the really kind of rare stuff. It was a lot more difficult, and it was like if you want to get a shortcut to those items, you can spend money to get to them. But it's done a good way with sorry, my screen just went like screensaver mode there.
Yes.
I thought it shut down. But the Team Fortress 2 does it right because it kind of puts you off the spending money because the hunt is much more enjoyable of spontaneously getting items when you play. It's a lot more fun and appealing than just buying it and going out because you get things so frequently. It's like, I wonder what I'm going to get next if I play a little bit longer. And I haven't found myself spending a lot of money on that game when I have played it because I just like the enjoyment of unlocking those items. And I think if more games can do that and make the free aspect of it more enjoyable, I think so many of them are just focused on maximising their profit margins and everything like that, that they just make the free aspect of it so unappealing. And
I was just going to say, but if everyone made the free aspect really sort of appealing and everything, that you don't have to pay all of this money to play it, then people will just be like, I'm not going to pay it because I don't need to. And then the developers are like, well, we can't afford to run this game anymore.
Yeah.
But let me go back to... Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, no,
let me go back... Yeah, go on.
No, sorry, Karen.
Let me go back to what Andy was saying earlier, where he doesn't have enough time because of work and other things like that. I'm the same as Andy. I don't have enough time to do, to play the games that I would like to play. But for me, ideally, is that I'm the kind of opposite to Andy. I would rather not pay the money, but if it took me 2 years to get where I wanted to get to on a game, I would, prefer to do that. And the reason why is because for me, it's more of an achievement to get to that stage. Yeah, it might take me 2 years to get there, but for me, it's kind of...
Would you still be interested in that game in 2 years' time, though, with rarely any development in the game?
Well, let's take Battlefield 3, for instance. Like, I've been playing Battlefield 3 from the day it came out, and you can buy things on Battlefield 3. Now, I've had friends that have bought things on Battlefield 3. Like, oh, look what I'm using this.
Yeah, but that's not a free-to-play model. That's...
No, it's not a free-to-play model.
Buy it and then...
No.
No, but it is using a free-to-play model inside a paid game, so I think it is still relevant.
Yeah. But, like, my friend was using this vehicle. Oh, look what I've got. I've bought this. But I've only just got to that. Yeah, okay, it took me over 2 years to get to it. But it was more of an achievement because I said to my friend, look, I've got this now. Oh, but I've been using this for how many months or whatever. But, it's a real achievement for me because I got there through hard work. Yeah, it took me a long time to get there, but I got there. And that's
I just get bored too soon because, like, if I've got the same content being recycled constantly, and it's taken me... It becomes more of a grind than more of a chore and a grind than it does...
That's what I enjoy, though. I enjoy the grind.
But most people... You'd love World of Warcraft then, because you'd sit there just clicking, like, kill this goblin for 2 hours just to level up, right?
I'd say, like, I really don't like that, because I've been playing Battlefield 4, I've gone back into that recently, and it really annoys me that if you unlock a new weapon in it, you have to spend ages with that weapon to get all of the different unlocks.
You can't get to you can't get to the content that you want in order to enjoy the game.
And it's just
it should never become a chore.
So I just end up using this one weapon, which I have to say I'm getting pretty good at. But I would like to use some other ones, but I can't because I'd say I can't. I don't want to because there isn't the unlocks in it, and I can't be asked to go through the unlocking process.
It's almost like making the game into a job. It's like, you have to work at something in order to get it. But to be honest, when I play a video game, it's a hobby for me. It's something I can enjoy. I don't want to have to work away. It's not a case of like not putting effort into unlocking something or achieving something, but it's the fact of having to put hours and hours and hours, endless hours into a game that you don't enjoy just so that you can eventually enjoy it. That's not really worth doing.
Well, for me, it's when I get home from work. This is what I like to do sometimes: is go straight on Battlefield, whatever, just to take my frustration out of what's gone on through the day. And it's kind of it's not so enjoyable anymore. It's something that is used to take my frustration out, so I feel better in myself. That's what it's like for me.
Yeah, but it's not like you're forcing yourself through the game to get to that piece. It's in order to enjoy it. So to say that you enjoy that part of it, it's not like, but you don't see it as a chore because you are enjoying that bit. If you didn't enjoy it, I don't think any sane person would play 20 hours of in-game time on a game so that they can enjoy 3 hours of some content to get to that. It's like you don't play through the entire I don't know, The Last of Us. You wouldn't play through 80% of the campaign and you hated all of it just so you could get to the last 20% that you enjoyed. That's insane. Why would you do that to yourself?
Some people would do that.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I say sane people.
I'm not one of them.
Interestingly, there's a statistic for mobile free-to-play games. 0.15% of mobile gamers contribute to 50% of all in-app purchases, and that's from games or VentureBeat.com. That's one of their articles.
I kind of have a thing about mobile apps. This is my opinion. I don't see the point of paying for a mobile app to play on. I'd rather use the PC.
Yeah, people haven't got the luxury, but you got to remember, like, there's a lot of people that enjoy playing games on the go, and they're not really spending much time sitting down on a PC, or they haven't got, like, some high-end PC, so they just want a small game they can play on the train to work because they're bored.
Yeah, of course.
And then in order, it's the same thing. You get bored after a while, so you need more content to make the experience continually enjoyable.
Yeah, of course. Like some people,
and you can't do that without spending money usually.
yeah, some people haven't got high-end PCs, like you said, and some people don't have a PC at all, so they have a mobile game. But in my opinion, I don't see the point of that. That's just my kind of fix on it. Like, I don't see.
I mean, would you be more willing to pay for a game if it was on a PC than a mobile game?
Yeah, I would. If there was a game on a mobile, but you could also get it on PC, I'd be more inclined to do that on PC than rather on mobile.
Okay, well, I just think summarising, because looking at how long we've been doing this podcast for, it's probably about time to start wrapping things up. So let's just get a general kind of sense of what our views are on this. Free to play, is it the future? And are we going to see a lot more of it? What are your general thoughts about it?
My general thoughts on free to play, it's a good idea, it's a good concept, but the balancing has to be there. And also, again, it does fit for some games, and it also doesn't fit for others. So the balancing has to be there, otherwise the whole system falls apart.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It will work for some games, but not for others. And if it gets implemented, then they have to do it right. Otherwise, I feel like people they'll just completely ignore it. So I don't think it's the future for everything, but I think we will see more of it, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think that, we're going to see, especially for MMO, we're going to see free to play a lot more, because it just seems the right type of game. I think it just really does depend on what you're playing and what category it fits in. And I don't think we'll really ever be at a stage where everything's free to play either, because it just wouldn't make sense. But yeah, that's been this episode of the podcast, well, for the Spawn Point, with our very special guest, Pee Wee Herman. Thank you for turning up again after the first 2 screw-ups. Hopefully this episode airs and we don't get a corrupt file. We will be making about 10,000 copies of it so that doesn't happen. And hopefully we will see you guys next week for another episode, if all goes to plan.
I mean, just before we go, what are your guys' views on this? So just leave it below.
Yeah, of course. Let us know what you think in the comment section about free to play and the whole thing, and do you think that it is the future yourself? Let us know. But from all of us and Pee Wee, it's time to say goodbye.
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 And Steve is getting very good at saying goodbye.
Yeah, bye. Bye, because I was so rude last time.